Remember last year, what did we say? What does Rashi say? Ushlalam lavos. What is it? Where's it from? What's that line? Ushlalam lavos. Yeah, what does it mean? So the original Haman enactment was free for all killing the Jews and all their property, whoever, first finders keepers, whoever takes it, right? That was part of the terrible thing. Haman was basically hung just a few days after it, thank God, right? He issued this order, and probably by the time, shortly after people, imagine 2 weeks later, hear about this in some far-flung province, they hear enactment, and just a few days later, and Haman was killed. The guy who initiated this whole thing, he's already been hung. And just a few weeks after that, there's another enactment. You can't take back the first one. The Jews can defend themselves. And what did it say about the Jews' enemies? Also, the Jews can take the spoils. Ushlalam lavos. But Rashi says that uvabiza lo shilchu yadam. On both days of fighting, the Jews did not take any of their enemies' property. Why didn't they take any of their enemies' property? That's what they're plotting to do then. Their enemies were plotting to kill them and take their property. But the Jews fought back. This was a good trick. It was like a Maoist trick. See who speaks up and starts sharpening his sword, getting ready for the massacre of the Jews. Then the Jews know who to kill. It's great. It's kind of funny. Nowadays, the Jews know exactly who their enemies are. They even have big parades, brandishing their guns and declaring their intent to kill the Jews, yet the Jews don't do anything about it. Very strange. If I were, I don't know, don't you know anybody who pilots a helicopter gunship? A Jewish hero would be the first guy to get in a helicopter gunship, if we have such a thing, and find one of these big demonstrations wherever they happen, and just have a little fun. Yeah, he might be tried by 12, but he'd be saving a lot of Jews from being carried by 6, right? Okay. Anyways, so Rashi has his reasons given there that they didn't want to offend Achashverosh too much. Maybe Esther was able to convince Achashverosh, give me another day. Let me tell my people to continue the fighting back another day, right? It's because Achashverosh didn't see the Jews acting greedy. And the fact is they ain't touching it. It says, Vabiza lo shulchu yadam. But in practice, they didn't. Rashi is explaining why they didn't. It's very not addressed by the Mefarshim why they didn't take it. So last year we discussed that, technically speaking, you're allowed to take spoils even from Amalekites and Canaanites, right? Ikra din, spoils from Canaanites. It was a one-time order from God through the Navi that Saul could not take any spoils. That was a chiddush. Even destroy the animals. Why? Because even from Canaanites and Amalekites, of whom everybody has to be destroyed, the spoils are a gift of God to you. You get to take their houses and everything they had. And it says in a few places that King David took spoils from the Amalekites and dedicated them to the temple, just like he took from all the other enemies. Bad guys. Okay? That's what he did. It was a chiddush. It's not a general halacha that you can't take spoils from them. That's why the Rambam doesn't mention such a thing. By the way, they ask, why does the Rambam mention Purim Mashulash? Because according to the Rambam, when Purim is on Shabbos, like it's going to be next week in many places, they're going to read the Megillah on Friday, but they're going to have their Purim Suda on Shabbos. And Sunday is not going to be Purim Suda. No, Rishonim will held that way. Yeah.
What would be the reason not to?
What? Because Yerushalmi says when Purim is on Shabbos, you have the meal the next day. The Rambam didn't hold like Yerushalmi. Maybe he didn't have it. Okay? So it's a good question. Everybody holds like Yerushalmi. Why they do it? For a while, it was for a few centuries, there was no real places where Jews kept Shushan Purim as a matter of course. They had just forgotten. And then finally you have a Jewish community in Jerusalem, so that's what they started doing. Like this Yerushalmi, because there are Rishonim who bring it, like the Rif. Okay? There's always been a Rishonim, but apparently the Rambam didn't have this, even though he would have, it's explicit in Yerushalmi. The Vilna Gaon points it out. Others do. The Pri Chadash, we're going to discuss soon, says you should be machmir and have Purim Suda on both days.
Yes. You have to have a specific Purim Suda.
So that's the reason the Yerushalmi says you do your Purim Suda on Sunday is because Purim Suda on Shabbos, there's no hecker that it's a Purim Suda. It's a Shabbos Suda. On Shabbos you have many Sudas. Purim Suda is one Suda by day. Shabbos you have one Suda at night and 2 by day. So where's the hecker that it's Purim?
Oh, everyone's getting drunk.
Okay, well people do you drink wine on Shabbos also. Okay? So you're not supposed to get that drunk on Shabbos, Not supposed to get that drunk on Purim. So, yeah. what are we saying here? So the after discussions today, Dr. England had a video that came out today, and it made me realize what is cherem. Sometimes the Jewish people have a decision that they make to fight Amalek. They tell God, "We're going to not take any spoils. We're going to thoroughly destroy these people, and all the possessions will be as though an offering to God." Where did Joshua do this?
No, no.
Jericho,
Yeah.
Jericho. That was they're going to take everything from the Canaanites. It's a mitzvah in the Torah to take what the Canaanites have, take possession, even of their non-kosher food. They were eating pork. You inherit their house full of pork. You can eat it. Yeah, that's the absurd example that Chazal say. That's what the Torah permitted for the soldiers. It's a question. The Ramban limits this, but the Rambam has his own limitations how they limit it. But the pashtus is you take over the enemy's house. You could eat everything in the fridge, right?
Really much worth eating.
I know, because the electricity had been out for a while. But they used to hang. Why did Chazal say they'd find, pig's feet? Means like sausages, type of stuff that didn't need
You
refrigeration.
did find packages of sealed UN pasta though.
Oh, the UN food? Was it cooked pasta or is it
No, it's
dry?
raw pasta. You could make.
Okay,
My
it's probably
friend
kosher.
asked one of the rabbis at yeshiva and said, "I don't have kosher food."
Well, it probably is kosher. It's a vegetarian food taken from Kutzlar. It's
No, it
uncooked.
didn't have a hechsher.
Didn't have hechsher. So, but even if it didn't have hechsher, the Chazal said you could eat the pig, and here the rabbi is telling you to be machmir for not eating dry noodles. I tell you, they're more firmer than Moses. What's the question? You have to check for bugs. It's ironic if the goyim had pickled bugs, okay, if they had like shrimp and lobster and crabs, those are all basically gigantic water bugs. If they had that cooking in their house and you conquered them, you'd be able to eat that. You could eat bugs because the Torah permitted the non-kosher food in their houses when you take over their houses. Uvatim milim kotuv asher lo milesa. So Chazal said even the pork, so you can eat the seafood that they have in their house. Yeah, you missed your opportunity.
I mean,
Okay.
Arabs don't pork, so
I know, but maybe they had seafood. The Arabs eat seafood.
I have no desire to eat seafood.
I know, neither do I. They're gigantic water bugs. Why don't anybody want to eat it? Shrimp. You know what shrimp is? People like shrimp. How could you eat this stuff? Thank God we've advanced. Well, okay, but the Torah allows you to eat grasshoppers. There's a.
I mean, I wouldn't have to worry about kosher candies that I take from them.
No,
As in, if I use them in
that you do have to. Once you take them home, you have to
I'm
kosher
not
them.
taking them home.
You
I
lo-
use pans out.
The whole din of koshering pans is learned from the pots and pans they took from the goyim in war.
No, but I didn't take it out of war.
Yeah,
When
so
I'm in the
when you're in the house, you're eating his tray food. But once you take the pots, the halacha is you have to take. You can't say, "Well, it has tray." You have to kosher the pot.
No, but if I leave it in the battlefield, using the battlefield, I don't.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, so let's continue this. Where are we saying? So after reading about this, I realized no, the whole point of cherem is what? To show that you're doing it l'shem shemayim. Sometimes God orders the cherem, and sometimes Am Yisrael, it's part of God help us out. We'll make this a cherem just to show that we're doing this l'shem shemayim. So when the Jews didn't take spoils from their enemies, not that you can't say that they're Amalekim, so you're not allowed to take spoils from them, because not every single Jew hater scattered throughout the Persian Empire as it was then was an Amalekite. That's an impossibility. It's more than that. It's that the Jews chose not to take any of the spoils to show that they're doing this l'shem shemayim. Okay? Jews don't take spoils to show that it's l'shem shemayim. Make a cherem of it. It's similar to the practice of sometimes imposing a fast on the soldiers, like Saul did. He did it right the first time, right? Or like David pouring out the water. The men endangered their lives to obtain this, said no one could drink it. The water's holy. So he poured it out as though it's like a libation, right? And other examples in history. So that's why they didn't take the spoils. It was a way of showing we're doing this l'shem shemayim and God is on our side. Or it could have very well been that they'd taken a vow, we'll make all their possessions cherem, but it wasn't included in the Megillah. Why? What's left out of the Megillah? The Megillah was written under censorship. So what's the most critical thing? Like the most obvious omission from the Megillah, the way we have it? God, right? It says, Esther told Mordechai, gather all the Jews and fast for me. And don't eat and don't drink. 3 days. I'm also going to fast 3 days. It doesn't say gather everybody. Where? In the synagogues. It doesn't say that. And pray. Oh, it doesn't say that. That's in the Targumim. and in the uncensored versions, the complete versions of the Megillah that the Jews still held on to that aren't the official version. So yeah, you could, they're versions in Aramaic that have all the missing pieces.
So you're saying Targum is an uncensored version of the Megillah?
Yeah, there's Targum that are uncensored. Okay, so now you have to go read it. So there's prayer involved. There was prayer. The whole idea of prayer, they'll set the central. Starve yourself for 3 days and go for it. They're praying. That says kinos, leich kinos. Kinos means, why do they call it a shul? What's a shul? The real word for a shul, Beit Knesset. That's what it meant. Okay, so that's left out. Or how they thank God, the words of praise and the songs they sang afterwards are omitted from the Megillah, but we have a record of them. So too, the whole thing that the Jewish people said, we are going to not take these spoils. We're telling God, grant us victory over our enemies, and we will, not touch the spoils. That part was left out because that's a promise to God. It's like a form of prayer. Okay.
Is there a canon Targum?
There's some. No. On the Ksuvim, there is no canon Targum. Okay. Even on Tehillim, there's no canon. There's only canon Targum, Oklus on the Torah, and Targum Yonasan on the Nevi'im. Even what they call, as you know, the Yonasan on the Torah is not Yonasan, it's not canon.
Targum is a quote-unquote uncensored version of
because the sages discuss it. In Midrashim of the sages, they say more. They fill in the blanks. They tell you that was written. This was written under Achashverosh's eye, or at least his literate scribes. I don't know, was Achashverosh literate? How come it's censored? Because Achashverosh was a Russia who worshipped idols and was very finicky. Just like one day, his prime minister bribes him and says, "Can I kill your Jews?" And he was totally fine with that. And the next day, because he's very much infatuated with the beautiful Jewish woman, he'll overturn everything else. He could have switched on, he killed his favorite wife because one of his advisors told him to. The Gemara says, Achashverosh was the guy who killed his wife because his friend told him to, and then killed his friend because his wife told him to. Okay? What would make it that the next day, his friend will tell him to kill his wife? Right? That's what the Gemara says. No, sorry, it's the Medrash. Medrash Hester points that out. Okay? So, he had it censored. Don't forget, Achashverosh did worse. When he first took the throne, he put a halt to the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And that's not a Medrash. That's what it's described in Sefer Ezra. That's why he made such a big party. Right? And even though things were good afterwards, the Jewish people survived, the whole building of the Beis HaMikdash was still put on hold until when? Achashverosh was, thank God, dead. Okay? They couldn't go ahead with that. Ad Chatzia Malchus. Okay? There's certain things I won't give you, Esther. I'll give you everything. Why did he give Esther everything he wanted? Do you think he had such a good relationship with her? Like, they had some sort of deep thing that she actually liked him? She all be zochet to such a thing. But it was mostly just a straight, animal infatuation he had with this poor woman. It was terrible. Her situation before Mordechai said, maybe this is the reason why this happened to you. It was just tragic what happened to her. So, that's why he did it.